What a ripoff. I'm working out, I'm eating right, and I gotta buy bigger jeans because my bile is broken? I don't even understand what that means. So if you can't lose weight and you can't figure it out, you can't miss this video. Let's jump in.
TC Hale is not a doctor and does not claim to be a doctor or licensed in any type of medical field. Don't be an idiot and use anything heard on the show as medical advice. This information should be used for educational purposes only, and you should contact your doctor for any medical advice. Now get off me.
So if you've been having a hard time losing weight, put in the comments right now what you've been trying, and let's see about the things that may not be helping the widest variety of people. Now, in case you don't know, bile is this soapy substance that's made by the liver and then it's stored in the gallbladder, and it concentrates there until it's ready to be used. So when we eat food and that food acidifies and then leaves the stomach, the gallbladder squirts this bile down onto the food and it helps us digest our food. The problem is there's a wide variety of issues in our world and in our diet and in our food supply that can thicken up that bile so it won't flow correctly. So if the bile is too thick and sticky to flow correctly, it won't come down there and help us digest our food. So it's not that your bile can get broken or really malfunction, but the bile can become too thick and sticky to flow correctly, and then that can cause your gallbladder to malfunction. It can cause your gallbladder to malfunction to the point to where your doctor's yanking it out and chucking it in the trash can. And it's actually in a doctor's training that when they remove a gallbladder, they have to throw it at least 6 feet into the trash can just to see if they can make it. Now, there's an excellent chance that that last part is not true at all. There's an excellent chance that I just totally made up that whole trash can part, but you get my point. The moral of the story is to look both ways before you cross the street. I don't understand how that's the moral to that story even a little bit. The first way that bile trouble can lead to weight gain is that we use our bile to help us emulsify or break down our dietary fats. And when dietary fats can't be broken down properly so that the body can utilize them, they can become rancid and toxic and become a problem to the body. Anything the body can't utilize becomes a burden. Now the body has to figure out how to get rid of it. Like if you're a mechanic and somebody gives you a broken truck for free, that's gold. You can sell it for parts, you can increase your profits. But if you're just some guy and somebody gives you a broken truck, now you got to figure out what you got to do with it. Now it becomes a problem. Now you're just a guy that parks a broken truck in his front yard and here's your HOA letter. Now, dietary fats have a wide variety of purposes in the body. There's a lot of needs in the body where it requires dietary fats. But if the dietary fats can't be broken down so that they can be utilized by the body, they can become toxic and become a burden, and the body can actually store those toxic fats in fat cells. Now your fat cells expand, and guess what? So do your pants. An inability to break down dietary fats due to a lack of bile flow has an excellent chance of leading to weight gain. The second reason that poor bile flow can lead to weight gain is that we use bile to neutralize the acids leaving our stomach. Bile is very alkaline, so when it comes down and hits this acid product that left the stomach, it creates this sizzle. It would kind of be like mixing baking soda and vinegar. You kind of get that freaky sizzle thing going on. And this sizzle is what helps us bust the food apart and pull all the nutrients out of that food. So you really need both sides of digestion going correctly to create that sizzle, to bust the food apart and get all the nutrients out. If you don't have that sizzle, you're not getting all the nutrients out of your food, which is going to lead to nutrient deficiencies. Now, a big problem with nutrient deficiencies is that that can lead to cravings. Cravings are a signal that your body's saying, hey, I need more stuff. I'm not getting the stuff that I need. And the problem is that a lot of times cravings mean that we're going to give in to more sugars and carbs. The sugars and the carbs are easier for our body to break down and turn into an immediate fuel. So if the body's not getting what it needs, it'll say, hey, those Nilla wafers, go get those. I broke those down real quick and turned it into an immediate fuel. Give me those. So as we gravitate to giving in to all of these cravings, it's going to be a hard time sticking to any type of proper diet. The problem with all these carbs and sugars is that's going to raise our insulin level. And when insulin levels are too high too often, not only does that block our ability to burn stored fat for fuel, it sends this constant signal that says store more fat for fuel for later. Now the real problem without having both sides of this digestive action working, both the acid from the stomach and the alkaline bile dropping down onto those acids, when you don't have both of those, Dietary fats and proteins are much harder to digest. You need both sides of that action working to really break down proteins and fats. So if you eat a steak and it sits there for 6 hours because you can't acidify your stomach correctly, you're going to feel lousy. You're not going to want to eat more steak. If you eat dietary fats and you get all nauseous because these fats are not being broken down and they're becoming rancid and toxic, well, you're not going to want those either. So you're going to end up gravitating more towards these carbs, and then more and more carbs is going to keep insulin higher and higher and continue to store more and more fat. We're getting a load of fat now. The body just likes us to gravitate towards these carbs because they're easier to break down, but this also makes it easier to set new records on your scale. Problem number 3 is about the liver. Most people know that the liver's job is to filter out these toxins and junk in the body so that it can be removed. But what a lot of people don't know is that the liver puts that filth into our bile. It puts it in the bile because the bile goes down through the intestinal tract and then these junk goes out the back door. That's the main exit strategy for filth and toxins in the body, is the liver filtering out junk, putting it in the bile goes out the back door. The problem is if our bile gets too thick and sticky to flow correctly, those toxins aren't getting removed. The liver filters out the junk and puts it in the bile, but then the bile is not leaving. It's not going out the back door. It's too thick and sticky to move. So now those toxins get reassimilated into the body and the liver's got to filter them out all over again. It's like, hey, this looks familiar. Oh, I did this. I did this already. And now the liver's going to get overwhelmed. It can't do the jobs that it needs to do because it's dealing with this toxic environment. So as an emergency, the body says, hey, I'll just take some of these toxins and I'll shove them into fat cells. Now, not all toxins can be stored in fat cells, but a lot of them can. So the more toxic junk that gets shoved into these fat cells, the more these fat cells expand. You can see that that's a problem. The fourth reason that poor bile flow can lead to weight gain is going to kind of run off the third reason with the liver. The liver is in charge of converting our T4 into T3 so that that T3 can be used by the thyroid. That's just one of the liver's jobs. But when the liver's overwhelmed because it's doing all this work, removing toxins, but the toxins aren't being taken out the back door, now it has to focus more on this toxic environment. It can't do all the jobs that the liver is intended to do. So when it can't convert enough T4 to T3, now the thyroid will lean towards the hypothyroid. And the thyroid's not going to function correctly and it's going to slow down our metabolism and lead to weight gain. Like, it's really popular right now for thyroid issues to lead to weight gain. Like, all the cool kids have weight gain due to thyroid issues. But you can see that it might not be a thyroid issue. It might actually be a liver issue. And if they can focus on improving liver function by helping bile flow so that the trash can go out, then maybe the thyroid will be able to work correctly. Now, if you've lost your gallbladder and you're thinking, well, where am I storing bile? I don't even have a gallbladder anymore. Go down to the description below and you'll find some links to videos just for people who have lost their gallbladder. There's some extra steps that you're going to have to take to improve the issue, but you can do it if you take the right steps. Now, if you want to figure out if either side of digestion isn't working correctly, either the stomach acid side or the bile flow side, we have a free digestion course, and I'll put the link to that free course down below. And that'll walk you through figuring out which aspects of digestion may not be working correctly and steps you can take to improve those. For now, watch our video on 5 ways to improve bile flow, and that'll give you some more insights. I can't wait to hear about your results.